Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, I have some really cool cyclical analysis to share with you guys, talking deeply about the emotional psychology and the Wall Street cheat sheet. This is what I feel is the most important thing to master as an investor because it's really easy to identify inside of the market. The only difference is the fact that over a length of time, it's going to cause you to dollar cost average, and you're really going to play the slowest points of a market cycle. Not everybody has the patience and the perseverance to do that, but the people that do ultimately capitalize the most every single new cycle, and I'm here to share with you guys my exact thoughts on how to do that for this cycle coming up. If you're new and just finding this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Always remember to click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos like the one provided for you here. And make sure you guys sign up and join the Discord server of over 21,000 members growing, along with my free ebook and beginner's guide to crypto. Links are in the description for both. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so here we are to talk about today's video. Now, I thought that today's video would be a great opportunity to talk a lot more about market cycles. This is genuinely the thing that I care the most about inside of investing. In fact, this is actually the thing that got me excited about originally creating a YouTube channel. Now, in my beginning stages of my YouTube channel, I don't think anybody here really is continuing to watch, besides maybe one or two of you guys. Comment down below if you are still a subscriber from when we were all the way back in the bear market in 2018. Well, anyways, throughout that period of time, it was really watching the entire market cycle, understanding the emotional psychology of a market cycle that got me excited about understanding investing. And when I started to understand the emotional psychology of things, I not only started to get more excited about trading, but I started to be more profitable. I started to see things a little bit different, more clearer inside of my overall trading plan. And so we're going to talk about some of these things. Maybe you're new, maybe you're somebody that wants to understand markets a little bit better. This is going to be a really educational video for you guys, as well as applying, what I think is happening in this market cycle today. Because we've talked a lot about how it's a little bit different than times past, but one of the things I like to point out here is going to be one of the more bare bones parts of my analysis, and something that I've been applying a lot more into what we're seeing today. Kind of applying other strategies as well, but mainly trying to think things a little bit more at the basics. And the emotional psychology is the most basic level that I think provides the most value that you can find. And so we're going to talk about that right here. Now, the market cycle we're going to be analyzing today is actually going to be Dash. Now, you guys know that a lot of those old school altcoins from the 2017 cycle, they didn't really do anything in this cycle. On the likes of XRP, the likes of Dash, Bitcoin Cash, some of those other altcoins that didn't do a whole lot this cycle. And we were really just kind of questioning as to why that was. Now, a lot of people have thrown out different ideas. We've talked about a little bit about the idea that maybe the market's too oversaturated. Maybe there's too many altcoins today, and really there's just not enough money to go around. And I do believe that that ultimately was the case this cycle. Now, I'm not saying that this has to be the case every single cycle, though, and that's the thing I want you guys to remember here. What we're analyzing and what we're looking at is a multi-year process. Not every cycle is going to be the same. Every cycle is going to be a little bit different. Altcoins aren't going to be 100% at the same sequences as Bitcoin is, even though they do ultimately sync up together. And so what we're going to be talking about here is how Dash follows this same emotional psychology of a market cycle very accurately, and how I ultimately believe that a lot of these old school altcoins, maybe a lot of you guys are holding some of them, maybe you've been holding them ever since the bear market or throughout this period. Either way, I'm here to tell you guys that I actually think that these will have another cycle and they aren't dead. Now, Dash had one of the biggest bull markets in that 2017 cycle, and we followed, basically the trail of events that takes place inside of a euphoric market cycle. Disbelief, the beginning. Everybody thinks it's just not really going to be doing anything because we went through so many years of sideways consolidation or really just a bear market. And then we start going up. We get hope, optimism as we really start breaking out. And then when we go for our blow off top, this is really belief, thrill, and euphoria. This is the point of this part of the cycle. And then we go through the bearish aspect of things: complacency, anxiety, denial, panic, capitulation. That's really the first major crash that takes place. And what we find inside of these market cycles in cryptos is just as quick as it goes up, it generally goes back down just as fast. You know, as a rule of thumb, it looks pretty much like the exact same inverse as what we saw on the upside just happening on the downside. Now, this is where during this period of time, we were all kind of expecting that, you know, after this March 2020 sell-off, during this period, that was when we're going to start this massive new bull run. That was what I was expecting. That was what a lot of people were expecting. And we did get somewhat of a rally. You know, we did kind of get that move. We did make higher highs. We did rally up. But it was nothing along the lines of anything we were expecting inside of a true, you know, market cycle like crypto. Nothing like 2017, right? If we're looking at 2017, this was the previous all-time highs, and that was where we ended up. Now, if we're comparing it in this cycle, this is the previous all-time highs, and that was where we ended up. So obviously, it's nothing even close to being the same thing. You would never consider this to be, you know, anything like a market cycle. And that's why I think it's important that we're analyzing what is taking place and what has taken place over the last 4 years. Now, we basically bottomed here in 2018. So let's pull up the date range tool. From that point to where we're at today, we're almost at basically 4 years. I mean, 1,200, almost 1,300 days is about 3.5 years. So we're getting really close to having almost a 4-year duration of us literally just going sideways pretty much. We did have this one period where we made a quick impulse, but we've immediately resulted back down towards this range. And so this really didn't mean anything. This was more deviation outside of an existing trend in accumulation. Now, because of this, a lot of people have thought to themselves, well, that means the cryptos are dead. The 2017 altcoins, there's too much saturation. They're never going to have a big rally again. And I just simply disagree with that. And I think that the volume really tells the bigger picture that's at play. Now, when I look at this chart, it doesn't actually look bad to me. When I look at this chart, it looks a lot better than people would lead to believe. And it looks a lot more like accumulation happening inside of an extended market cycle. Now, if this is the case, I would expect that this next market cycle that's coming is going to be a big one. And it's either one of two things. Either the next market cycle that's coming is going to be a big one, and we are just following the classic example of prior market cycles throughout history and years of watching these market cycles. Because keep in mind, guys, that this market cycle here has repeated across many other markets, whether it's stocks, commodities, futures, all of the same thing. This is a universal chart pattern, because at the end of the day, it's not like chart patterns are just some random thing that appear on a chart. They're patterns because basically they repeat based off of human emotion, right? And that's why I think that the most important aspect that as investors we should look at is human emotion. Yes, that there's an equal opportunity when it comes to fundamentals, understanding how things work. I agree, but I think that the equal most important thing that you can learn is the emotional psychology of a market cycle, because this is where we're going to really understand when to get in and out of a cycle. And we've been knowing that the time to get in has basically been ever since 2018, right? We've been 4 years worth of, hey, now's the time to get in. And so because of that, I think a lot of people have completely written off the potential of any of these 2017 altcoins having a cycle, especially after the likes of Phantom, Solana, Luna, even though it collapsed. A lot of those altcoins that had really big major impulses during this cycle, Chainlink, right? When those ones all took off, these 2017 altcoins didn't do anything. And so obviously there's a giant red flag there. There's a major case to be brought up that, hey, these are completely dead and they're not going to have a major cycle. Because this isn't anything new. We have seen other altcoins do the same thing. A lot of those old school altcoins didn't really have the same sort of cycles that they did in the next cycle. And that is a pattern that we have seen play out. Now, with that being said, specific altcoins like Dash, specific altcoins like maybe Bitcoin Cash, and this is just actually an example of something that looks similar. We're going to delete that. But this is another example of a cycle where we've only ever seen consistent volume increases, right? Throughout this entire 4 years where we've just been going sideways in this range, we've had accumulation in volume, what looks to be like more and more volume. And so with Bitcoin Cash as well, when we're comparing it, Bitcoin Cash is one of the only cryptos that's actually accepted in PayPal. So if we're going to have any sort of a major rally, a big market cycle across the board where we see true retail adoption, where maybe the metaverse takes off in a big way and NFTs take off in a big way, and then we have a lot of retail adoption that's taking place. Well, if retail adoption is taking place, they're going to be looking to get into cryptos. Well, if they can get onto cryptos, what are the easiest on-ramps that are already massively adopted? PayPal is one of those. PayPal is massively integrated across the board. Anywhere that I have a business stuff that I can accept payments through my debit or credit card, I can accept payments through PayPal. So I honestly just don't think that this is going to be a reason to write these OG altcoins off. I don't think that they're dead. And I think that there's a big case to be had that these are actually going to have another big cycle, right? And when we look at the price of Dash, it follows just your classic example of the Wall Street cheat sheet. Now, through the accumulation that we've had, this is where I think that this stands out the most. When we go through our final sell-off and the end of our bear market, right? Really, the end of our bear market, what I consider, is for the most part, the end of our crash. And it would have been this point here in 2018. So even though the bear market stretched another 4 years from that point, the lowest point is our capitulation, right? And even though over here, we did technically go lower inside of the March 2020 COVID crash, for the most part, what we would consider capitulation is the initial bottom of the reversal of the bull trend, which was what happened right here. This was the first major decline of our bull trend. And then we kind of go through this period, and this is what we consider anger. Who shorted the market? Why did the government allow this to happen? And it's these kind of 2 points where we make this short-term bounce, this little double bottom formation type thing. And in my opinion, that was really what we saw throughout the entirety of 2019 through really just 2019. That was anger, as everybody was getting their hopes up when we first started to break out at the beginning of 2019, and then everything sold back down again and everybody was angry about it, right? And so that's really what I would consider this period here. Now, depression is where we go through another sell-off. This is really where everybody's written everything off when it comes to the true bear market. And I think that that was actually March of 2020 when we got this massive capitulation. I think that that was truly our depression. My retirement money is lost. How can we pay for all of this new stuff? I'm an idiot, right? All of the people that made all the money on the upside, or all of the people that just simply bought at the top, they are looking at this, taking massive losses. You know, the world is ending, the sky is falling, all of that stuff. Now, this is where things get interesting in my opinion. Now, this is what leads us to the disbelief phase. This is a sucker's rally. Nobody actually thinks that the new market cycle is going to happen because ultimately it's taken place after such a lengthy period of downward price action. Now, is this the case for Dash? Is Dash really dead? Or are we actually just following the age-old pattern of human emotion and emotional psychology being the Wall Street cheat sheet? And I think that that's the thing that we need to really pay attention for. I truly believe that these are going to have a cycle. I don't think that these are dead. And when I look at the chart like this and we see massive volume that came out during this period of the disbelief phase, what this looks like to me is honestly just a bigger version of what Ethereum already did. So let's come over here. Let's look at Ethereum's bear market. Now keep in mind, Dash did not do what Ethereum did, and so there is going to be differences here. But Ethereum is an outlier in my opinion. Ethereum is basically like Bitcoin. It is widely adopted and accepted as Bitcoin is today. I'm not saying that they're comparable in a sort of sense because they're very different. But in the same way that Bitcoin is massively adopted today and it shares a lot more confidence in the market and institutional adoption, that is Ethereum. It's the next in line aside from Bitcoin. And so I don't believe that we can compare Dash to Ethereum, right? Even though they had big runs in 2017, Ethereum in this cycle proved that it's just on a different level than the rest of the cryptos. A lot of altcoins didn't move when Ethereum and Bitcoin did. Now, what I'm trying to point out here is when we actually take a look at Ethereum back in the early days, this early cycle that we saw in the bear market, what I'm trying to talk about is really just the bear market that we saw throughout this period, right? When we made our first impulse and then we kind of corrected back down after we had our first breakout in volume, what that reminds me a lot of is when we first started breaking out into the new bull run here shortly after COVID, right? And it was this move right here. So keep in mind that Ethereum held much better support than what Dash did when we're in this comparison. But keep in mind that we had this big lengthy period of consolidation, right? lengthy period of consolidation where we're pretty much just going back and forth, back and forth. You know, there's not a significant move in the volume aside from when we got our COVID capitulation, which would have been our telltale sign that, hey, you know, the bottom's in. Now, Ethereum rallied up. And then we actually flipped this previous resistance level. And then that's really what took us into that new all-time high. But this would have been our disbelief phase, right? This is where everybody thought it was a sucker's rally. We start breaking out again, and then we start selling off, and everybody thinks, oh man, it's over, everything's dead, it's going to crash again. That was our disbelief phase of the market cycle. And that was our final point before Ethereum pretty much teleported straight to $4,500. I believe that things are very much the same, except what is taking place on some of these other altcoins is simply an extended cycle. Whereas the likes of Ethereum and some of these other altcoins like Solana had very big impulsive cycles when Bitcoin ran upwards of 65,000. Those are the outliers. Those are the things that we really need to focus the most of, put the most trust in with our portfolios. But it does not mean that the altcoins that didn't really move a lot, it does not mean that those are dead. I believe that these will move. They will have a very big cycle, but they're just not as reliable as the ones like Solana, as the ones like maybe Polkadot, maybe Cardano. Some of the altcoins that just simply had a big move, those are the ones that I think are simply the ones that have the most confidence in them. Simply put, there's no other way to wrap a conclusion around that besides the fact that, hey, those are the outliers, those are the ones that begin the cycle, those are where the institutions and smart money are adopting first, but it doesn't mean that these ones are dead. We're following the same turn of events. I believe that this was the disbelief phase. Because keep in mind, guys, that we had literally done nothing besides go sideways in this range. This was the first impulse that we had ever made from the accumulation range. This was the first higher high, or an attempt at a higher high that we'd ever had. Not only that, but it was really the first time we'd ever seen an extended period of new volume coming in. Money coming in, buying the dip, replenishing all of the weak hands that was panic sold throughout here. And then we go through this period, and I believe that we're going to have another breakout in volume. And then, you know, we'll repeat the same thing over again. You know, these are things I want you guys to pay attention for, because I think it's really important that we don't write off the potential of these cryptos having another cycle. And we still have no idea really what's going to happen inside of Bitcoin. I believe Bitcoin's still on its way to $250,000. The only difference here is we're just having an extended cycle. That's the only way I can basically look at this cycle and wrap my head around it. I can't tell you what the beginning A to B will look like and how it'll look in between and all of that. But what we can point at is human emotion. We can point at volume and how there is new money coming into these markets. And it's nothing like we haven't seen in prior cycles. Yes, Dash is different. Cryptos are different than the stocks. They're different than commodities. They're different than other things. But the emotions and the people trading and buying these things stay constant over time. And that's why patterns are created. So as we wrap up this video, the final thing we're going to be talking about today is Chainlink. Now, the reason we're talking about Chainlink today is because I find it interesting that as I'm noticing a lot of those old school 2017 altcoins that just look phenomenal, they just look like what we would consider, you know, the early bottom stages of a big market cycle, right? That's what I look at the OG altcoins as viewing to me. It just looks like a heavy accumulated market cycle about to take off. Now, what I find is interesting is when we come over here and look at the likes of Chainlink, a crypto that was a major outlier this cycle. Chainlink led the bull run. I think people forgot about that. When Bitcoin broke out of when Bitcoin went to 14K and it made its first impulse out of the bear market at $3,200, it went from $3,200, which was right here, all the way to 14K, which was right here. So this is what Chainlink did in that move. Chainlink made a massive, massive move. We went 20x plus inside of that move. And so Chainlink actually led the cycle. It led Bitcoin and outperformed Bitcoin. And a lot of altcoins like Ethereum didn't really even do anything when Bitcoin went to 14K, right? They stayed relatively low. And so Chainlink was an outlier. And we saw that relatively the entire cycle. Yes, it had a lackluster performance in the end of the impulses when Bitcoin topped at 69K, when Solana, Phantom, and those did massive moves. Chainlink didn't do much. But, you know, it's to be expected when Chainlink was an outperformer at the earlier stage of a cycle. You know, there's a give and there's a take in things. Now, what I find interesting is our lowest point was here at about the end of June 2018. if we draw that line to roughly where we're at today, that equals 1,450 days. Now, you guys need to remember, a 4-year cycle is measured from low to low. It's not actually measured from high to high. Yes, a 4-year cycle can follow a 4-year cycle from high to high, and we have seen that in Bitcoin cycles previously. But the way that you measure a true 4-year cycle is actually from peak low to peak low. And so 1,450 days equals 4 years. 1,450 days from our last cycle low takes us to almost exactly the low that we just barely put in. Keep in mind, guys, that the low that we just barely put in is pretty much an 88% correction from the all-time highs. 88.88%, that means money sign. So this was pretty much on par with any type of other correction that we've seen in bear markets. Anywhere from 80 to 95%, that's what we've seen in bear markets prior for Bitcoin and altcoins. Now, this puts us right in that midway point. Keep in mind, guys, that if we also measure from the very high of the cycle that we made here at $52 in about May 10th of 2021 and measure 365 days over, that is our exact low that we just put in here at our most recent sell-off. So on average, what we've seen in 4-year cycles, bear markets last 1 year in duration. Now keep in mind that as bear markets only last 1 year in duration, peak low to peak low of a 4-year cycle equals 1,450 days. That's exactly what we saw here. Our last low of our cycle is exactly 1,450 days to the low that we're stitching in here. The low that we're stitching in here is also coming 365 days almost exactly from our all-time high, which has historically been the point in which we see bear market reversal points. So when we look at the Chainlink chart, I wanted to actually draw with you guys this really cool pattern that I noticed between Ethereum and Chainlink. And I think that this is something that we should pay attention for, because what we see here is Chainlink is one of the first major cryptos of the new cycle that we're actually seeing following a true 4-year cycle, right? And I think that that's something we need to really pay attention for when it comes to analyzing what we could see moving forward with Chainlink from here. Now we're going to remove some of our drawing tools in here, but we're just simply going to look at what it looks to be taking place here. Now inside of Ethereum's first major cycle, it followed almost the exact same thing when it comes to the cycle top and the cycle bottom as what we're seeing with Chainlink. Yes, the price action was a little bit more choppy during the initial decline, but Ethereum declined 94% from all-time high to the all-time low, and Chainlink declined 88% from the all-time high to the all-time low. Now Ethereum corrected exactly 1 year, 365 days, from the high that it set in at $1,450 to the low that it set in at $80. That was exactly 1 year in duration. Exactly the same thing that we're seeing with Chainlink today. Is it also coincidence that it seemed to be following almost the exact same impulse and cycle top anyways? I don't think so. And I think that that's a lot has to do with the fact that all of these altcoins are going to be heavily correlated. The same money that is buying Ethereum, that is buying Bitcoin, is buying Chainlink and buying the other ones, because it's basically like, it's kind of like a lottery system, right? Or musical chairs. You're buying one pumps, you're selling it, and you're taking profits and buying another one that hasn't pumped. It pumps, you take profits, and vice versa. You just keep doing that over and over again. That is what we see inside of these altcoins. Now, when I look at this chart, do I think that we're going to go through an extended period of consolidation like this? Honestly, I really have no idea. I would like us not to go through an extended period of consolidation like that. What I think is more likely would be for us to actually follow us being pretty slow, maybe something along the lines of this for the rest of this year. But I think that we would actually end up falling again, maybe retesting relatively close to the low that we stitched in there. And then that's the point that we would start going up. I don't think that we're going to go through a really extended period of sideways price action like we did in the last cycle, although it is something that we have to definitely pay attention for. If we go on the exact same cycle as the last one, where we have to wait for the Bitcoin halving to take place, then yeah, we will have Chainlink going through something along the lines of this, and that is something we need to expect. Now, when it comes to looking at the likes of Bitcoin Cash and Dash, cryptos that look like, they're ready to have a cycle because they haven't had one yet, these are cryptos that, are pointing a different story, and that's why we need to really think outside the box with what we're seeing as a whole. Chainlink has finished a 4-year cycle, right, from top to bottom. We would expect that Chainlink is going to be getting a new bull market. So if Chainlink's beginning a new bull market, would we expect to see it go sideways for 2 years? No, I personally would not. And the charts, in my opinion, aren't telling us that that's what's going to be taking place. So I'm going to scratch this conclusion that we're going to be going sideways forever. It's not. I still think it's a potential. We're still considering it, but I don't think it's the likely one to be considering right now. What I think is more likely would be something like this, or we might legit just start a brand new impulse back up. We might correct back down, but we'll maintain higher highs like this before, making another major move into 2024. These are the two potentials that I personally see for Chainlink. But the big thing with Chainlink is the fact that it's already finished its 4-year cycle. So if Chainlink's done with its 4-year cycle, we would expect that the new bull trend would be starting here. This should be our low if Chainlink is going to be following a true 4-year cycle. This should be our low. We should start a new impulse. And then, we'll have a corrective period. Who knows what that looks like? Who knows how much lower we come back down after that period? I have no idea. The big thing that we're looking at is simply just the time frames. We've corrected exactly 1 year from the cycle top to the cycle low of this new bear trend that we saw. When it comes over here to analyzing the last 4-year cycle, we have 1,450 days from our last cycle low. 4 years, exactly what we needed to see. Cycle low to cycle low. We should see the new impulses starting from here. And so I think it's a really interesting time, to say the least. I'm not 100% sure what is ultimately going to be taking place here. Bitcoin, depending on where we topped with Bitcoin, whether Bitcoin, you're drawing the cycle top at 69,000 or whether you're drawing the cycle top at 65,000. To me, Bitcoin topped at 65,000. And so, realistically, we're already pretty close to that 4-year cycle bottom, if that is the case. It's kind of hard to say exactly what's going on 100%. But at this point, I do believe the correction is over for Chainlink. That's the big point that I'm trying to make with this conclusion. But I mean, if Chainlink's done with its correction and it's going to be starting its new 4-year cycle, what's to say that these other OG altcoins that really didn't do anything in this cycle, what's to say that these ones aren't about to do something for the first time? I think that they will. That was the point I wanted to make in today's video. If you guys did find value in this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing updates. If you guys want to join the Discord server, download my free ebook. Links are going to be in the description for that. You guys can also sign up for my VIP course, signals, and all of that fun stuff. Links are in the description to go ahead and join my website. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate the support, and I know things have been pretty turbulent for a long time, but I do confidently believe that things will pan out for the better, and we will have a massive cycle like I've always talked about on this channel. Thank you guys so much for the support, and with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.